Well, hey there everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Adam, thanks for hanging out with me again today. In today's video, well, we're taking a look at another ESC and motor combo from SEQURE. It's a small little package for small little trucks. So, before I crack into this, I'm going to talk about this real quick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run this outside first, bone stock. Well, except for the wheels and tires. I did take off the stock wheels and tires. These look great, but they're very, very lightweight. They have no weight to them at all. And these definitely do better with a bit of weight down low. So I did pull these off and put on some Endure brass speed locks. And what are these? Hobby Soul. They're super swamperish looking tires. This did come with licensed IROCs on it. These are very, very similar in design. They're a little bit taller, a little bit wider, so we have better footprint, a little bit more weight. May have a little bit of body rub. And this one is brand new. So it is not run yet. I just ran it around on the bench to make sure it worked, just so I didn't have, in case I had to take it back to the hobby shop for some reason. And then immediately swapped out wheels and tires on it. So the video is not about the truck per se, but all about what you get in this little tiny box. Now, this did come packaged better. I just kind of went through everything, put it all back in here. So one thing is your manual is through a QR code. So this is on a sticker. So what I'm going to do is just stick this on the inside of the box. Keep that if I do need the manual in the future. So, but if you do have somewhere where you keep your manuals, like I keep most of mine in binders, you can just stick it to the inside of the binder and scan it with your phone. So the meat and potatoes of this is the tiny little Ant ESC and your brushless motor. So it's an outrunner motor. It's a 15, 20, 30, 500 kV motor. And this is the Ant ESC. This is 2S to 3S, 50 amp ESC with a 6 volt 3 amp BEC, one button on off. You have a plug for your motor, so it is plug and play. There's no figuring out which wires are which. Everything is plug and play. You have a battery lead and you have your receiver. So replacing this, I'm going to have to put in my own receiver, get rid of all the factory electronics. But like I said, we're going to run that first. Now the cool thing is they give you this plug that will plug into JST or kind of the flat two-blade, kind of the flat blade style that the FMS batteries come in. So the Redcat batteries come with the JST plug. These come with the kind of flat, I don't know what the terminology is for that plug, but it will plug right into that for FMS crawlers. And then you have the one for like Redcat and others. Now, TRX4M, stuff like that, well, thank Traxxas, they're the ones that screwed you up on that. But easy enough to snip those and put one of these on. So along with ESC, motor, and various battery leads, you also get their Wi-Fi board. So this just plugs into the receiver power. You plug your battery in, turn the ESC on, open up your phone, and look for this Wi-Fi connection, connect to it. It brings up the AM32 sheet that you can go in and change all your parameters if you want. I had their other brushless system and it was set up absolutely perfect for me right out of the box, so I'm not even going to go through the hassle of doing all that, but they do give it to you in this kit. That way you can go in, you can change your drag brake, you can change all the settings that are available to change on this and have it running the way you want it to run. They also include in the package a couple zip ties, double-sided tape to tape down your ESC, and they give you 3 different pinions. I'm assuming probably axial SCX24, probably for like the FMS line and some others. Fortunately, did not have a pinion in here for this. 2 of them are the same pitch, but different tooth count. So I did just order some Redcat pinions. I'll put a picture up here of the part number, but they're 12 tooth, and I'm going to put those in when I go to put this on. They're simple push on plastic pinion. So basically you just have to push it on to the point to where it locks into place and you're good to go. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to take this guy out and run it brushed. Then I'm going to do the tear down of this because you got to remove the transmission and all that stuff. I did also put in, or I also did order the metal gear set for this. So since I'm taking the transmission out, I may look to put the whole metal gear set in there. Kind of ironic because it's going to be running a plastic pinion with metal gear set, but eventually probably try to find a brass pinion for this, get that pressed on there, get a better full metal drivetrain in there, and then I'll just be breaking axles. Alright guys, enough jabbering. Let's get this out, run it brushed, and then I'm going to come back. We'll probably do just a photo montage of the swap over, and then we'll run it on brushless, and then I'll come back and give you my thoughts. Alright guys, so we got the little SEQURE brushless system in there, took it back out for a run. So cover two things, cover the install, and then we'll cover the second run. So the install went very, very well. It's very straightforward. You yank out all the electronics. The only thing that's left in there is the jumper wire that goes from the back up to the front for the body wiring. There's just a like 3-inch, 4-inch extension lead. That's the only thing you leave, and the servo. Your speed control, the motor, all that stuff comes out. Everything gets unplugged from the receiver, speed controller, and then swap in everything. The pressing the pinion on, I was a little worried about that. Sometimes it can be fiddly. The easiest way was one of these little quick lamps. What I did was I pulled the pad off of one end and I put the pinion up to that, slid the motor on there, got it nice and straight, slid this in there, and then just slowly squeezed it on. Now for the Redcat, the Ascent 18, all you have to do is basically press it on till the pinion is flush with the motor shaft and you're good to go. I did test it before I went outside. I was curious to see if that pinion was on there tight enough, and if you basically, you know, high traction area and put this up there, I did see the motor spin free a few times, but to be honest, at that point it was actually bending the rear suspension links. So yes, it can slip with that plastic pinion on there, but you're going to have to be basically putting it in a position where you're going to possibly break something else in there before that pinion slips. So not too worried about it. I did order some steel pinions just because I did put the steel gears in the transmission, so I'm just going to go with an all metal drivetrain in the transmission. You know, it kind of felt like it was a little silly to put steel gears in there when you're running a plastic pinion, so did get some steel gears ordered, pinion gears ordered. I'll get that swapped out at a later date, but that's neither here nor there on this. Now, speaking of the steel gears and transmission, this was noisier when it went back out. That has zero effect from the actual motor and ESC in here. That's all from the steel gears I put in the transmission. The motor and the ESC are both whisper quiet. You cannot hear either one of them. You know, it's dead silent. With the plastic gears on here, this should be a very, very, very quiet rig. I put the metal gears in here because it was an impulse buy. I bought the pinions and I was like, oh, steel transmission gears. They're only $8. Why not? So I went ahead and got them. Does it need them? No, I don't think so. I think, again, you're going to be bending links and, you know, snapping other bits and pieces before you start chewing up transmission gears. But if you do, $8. It's not a big deal. So yeah, very impressed with it. It does still have a little bit of the kind of lurch when it rolls over things. I think it's a lot to do with some of this drivetrain slop. You know, it just feels like when you crest over, and everything is amplified out there because I'm crawling over way too big of rocks for this thing. So when you're crawling over something and it kind of falls down into a hole, or kind of falls over, you see that lurch. And I think some of it is the overall drivetrain slop. You know, you got a little bit in the axle, a little bit in the front axle, a little bit in the rear axle, a little bit in the drive shafts, a little bit in the transmission. You know, it all adds up to this thing wiggling and back and forth. But where it shines is really the downhill descents. Climbing, it does just as well and better than the brushed. Speed-wise, it's right there with the brush motor. I'd have to look at the actual footage to see which one actually went faster. But it has well more than enough speed to get you from point A to point B, or to try to, you know, rocket yourself out of a hole or high centering or whatever. The downhill descent, big difference between this and the brushed. The brushed had a more of an on-off feel. Like either the drag brake was holding it, or if you gave it gas, it just wanted to go down the hill. You know, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it had more of that on-off feel, to where this one, if you let off the gas, it sat there, and if you just got on the trigger, it just slowly started creeping forward, and you could creepy crawl this thing down a hill, which will save you sometimes. It's not always about going up and over something. Sometimes a lot of the challenges are coming down off of something and not, flipping over. So very impressed with it. It's, is this for everybody? No. But if you want longer run times, more efficient running, I blasted it around the yard when I got done. Basically, I drove it all the way out of the woods and was blasting it around the yard in the grippy grass and everything. And, 3 or 4 minutes of that just to see if the motor and ESC would get hot from basically just full blast running. The ESC was ice cold and the motor was slightly above the ambient temperature outside. So I would say it was probably somewhere between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit for the motor, and the ESC was just outdoor temperature of about 45, 50. So I don't think you're going to have any overheating problems with this guy. I mean, an Ascent 18 is a bigger truck than, the Axial SCX24. Not terribly bigger, but it is bigger. And, I've got grippy, sticky tires on here. And like I said, cruising around the grass, you've got 2 lock diffs digging in. Creates a lot of resistance on the motor and everything, and the drivetrain. Motor did not care at all. I think the motor has plenty of power. Like I said, you're going to end up breaking other things, I think, before you damage or, bog down the motor. Now, there is some minor cogging at very, very, very low speeds under high load, but that's to be expected. It's a sensorless, brushless system, so eventually everything is going to cog a little bit. But otherwise, very low speeds. It's very smooth, very controlled. And thanks a ton for SEQURE for sending this over. I'll have links in the description below if you guys are interested in checking these out. They're readily available on Amazon as well as the SEQURE website. That sounds funny. I'm IT security, so saying SEQURE website. And just a reminder, you have different plugs, different pinions for the different minis. So we should cover FMS and the axials, possibly even the TRX 4Ms. Now, obviously, those you would have to have either a battery adapter or you just have to chop the existing lead off of the Traxxas one, which I think a lot of people do. But yeah, thanks a ton for SEQURE for sending this over. Click the links down in the description if you guys are interested. I have not heard back from them yet about the bigger ESC when that's coming out of production with some of the changes, but hopefully once that comes out of production with those changes, I'll get an updated one and we'll test that out. I would really like to put that system in my TRX 4. I ran that the other day and I was like, yeah, this would be better on the brushless system. So looking forward to hopefully doing that upgrade sometime soon. Anyway, guys, everybody out there, you guys be happy, be healthy, be safe. I will catch you guys on the next one. See ya.
Good speed, that's the bird.